My name is Suresh Mehta. I work with the International Labour Organization. I am the National Project Coordinator for the 8.7 Accelerator Lab to address fishing working conditions on board fishing vessels. The title of our project is 8.7 Accelerator Lab. It basically deals with the SDG Standard Development Goals that was put together by the United Nations in 2015, where all issues of the world, be it with poverty, be it with education, be it with literacy, be it with child labor, forced labor, all of that was supposed to be eradicated by 2030. So in the SDG goals, there's 16 of them. Number 8 is working on ensuring decent work within industry, any and all. And 8.7 deals with the aspect of human trafficking, human slavery, modern day slavery, whatever you call it, it's the same thing, where people are bought and sold or used and abused with the purpose of somebody making a profit. So that's 8.7, Article 8.7. So our unit is called 8.7 because we are addressing 8.7, and AL is Accelerator Lab. We're trying to assist the government of South Africa here to address issues of slavery, forced labor, whatever it might be, and with our project, it is within the fishing industry. So having given you a background, we began working with SAMSA on this project in 2022, March, slightly before that, but everything began in 2022 March, and since then we have been doing a lot of capacity building sessions with SAMSA. The first one we did was in July 2022, and it was extremely successful. It was very similar, where we had officials from Department of Labor, Department of Home Affairs, SAMSA and Department of Fisheries get together to talk about what is it that each of the department does and how can they work together in addressing labor issues on board fishing vessels, foreign and local, national. That was extremely successful because 3 days after that session, a foreign fishing vessel was detained in Durban because labor rights issues were noticed on board. Workers hadn't been paid, they were not being fed, contracts were illegal, some people had no contracts. There were people on board that vessel. One of them was so sick and he wasn't being given any treatment. When he was taken to the hospital, he was diagnosed as having cancer. So now that was, thereafter we did another session in May in Durban, and now this is the third session that we are doing, trying to address the inspectors who have not been capacitated in the previous 2 sessions. So again, we have met here in PE to talk about identifying and addressing red flags on board fishing vessels, national or foreign, that will be an indicator that forced labor and abusive working conditions are taking place on board those vessels. So this is not the role of SAMSA alone. Currently everyone thinks, fisheries go on board, just look at the catch. Immigration go on board, just look at the passports, the seafarers' documents, whatever. But this is something that needs to be addressed by everyone in unison. So if fisheries go on board and they identify red flags, they need to come and tell SAMSA that, hey, so-and-so vessel, so-and-so day, this is what I've seen. Same with immigration, same with labor. We had a very interesting session by Fisheries now where the Delrisha, she's the director of NPE of compliance, she said that fishing officers they carry guns, they can go on board any and every vessel, even when the vessel is on sea. They can question anyone, but they just do it with respect to the catch. Now, if they had to work, imagine if they had to work with SAMSA officials who have the know-how on how to address these issues, imagine how strong that combination would be. So this is what we're trying to achieve, we're hoping to achieve from this workshop, where we're getting fisheries, labor, SAMSA officials together to, first of all, identify red flags and then address it. And how do you address it? By networking with each other. You address it in unison, because no one department can work in silos and get help to those fishers down on the ground that need the help the most.
Just a quick one. You mentioned Durban, you mentioned now Gqeberha or Port Elizabeth. major fishing, especially commercial fishing in South Africa, seems to be taking place on the other side, which is on the Atlantic, where your western region, from a SAMSA perspective, is, or the Western Cape in terms of the national provinces. Is there an expectation of that this kind of workshop would be conducted there?
In Cape Town.
In Cape Town?
It was.
Saldanha Bay, for
Yeah.
example?
So the first workshop was done in Cape Town.
Was
And
it in
after
Cape
that first workshop, that vessel was detained in Durban. Second workshop was done in Durban. And a little after that workshop, a vessel was detained in Cape Town, which is interesting. And now this is the third one in PE.
Wow.
So just remember that fishing is one of the most hazardous, arduous, job in the world. Fishers have lived isolated lives. You and me, if we are unhappy with our bosses, we can leave, or we can walk out for the day, call in sick the next day. We can go and speak to our families. We've got so many options. But a fisher is on board that vessel, which is normally at sea for 21 days minimum, 30 days, 40 days. Sometimes it goes on for years. And they have nowhere to go. If they have a problem with the fisher, where are they going to go? If they have a problem with their colleagues, where are they going to go? So they're living, breathing, eating, sleeping in that space where there might be abusive conditions. How do they cope? A lot of them jump off those vessels. A lot of them take to drugs. And a lot of them, I don't know how they cope.
Relatively speaking, and this is my final question, I've seen your figures in terms of the problem internationally. Relatively speaking, how bad is the situation in South Africa, in your understanding, or at least the African continent?
So South Africa is one of the better countries in the world. It can actually be called a role model for the other countries. Like, we were the first country to sign the Convention on Work and Fishing, the C188. We were the first countries to implement it. We nationalized the legislation, which is, as you know, part of the MSA now, the Merchant Shipping Act. So South Africa is doing very well, very well. The political will is brilliant. The fact, that this is happening today shows a lot of political will. But having said that, there are still a lot of gaps, okay? If we think that there's no issues within the South African national fishing vessels, we are fooling ourselves. We have problems with contracts. We have come across, through our project, we've come across migrant fishers who either don't have contracts, or they're made to sign contracts in languages that they don't understand, or they're not allowed to read their contracts. So these is slowly but surely issues are coming out, but I know for a fact that the complete collaboration that SAMSA has with us, and the passion that SAMSA is showing towards making the South African fishing industry one of the best, I'm sure that SAMSA is going to address issues that come out while we are doing our research, because ILO has recently, we have contracted consultants to do research within South Africa for the South African national fleet to see what is the numbers. Is it as big as exists on foreign fishing vessels, or is it as happy as we think it is? So so we should get those figures by September. For now, there is no figures per se from South Africa, nor from any of the other African countries.
I really thank you for the time you've taken. Thank you so much. It's all very enlightening.